So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Should you buy the iPhone 13 mini in 2023? That is a topic of today's video. Now, the iPhone 13 mini did not get updated. They went to the 14 Plus, which didn't seem to be quite popular. And honestly, it seems like Apple is not really having major success or big hits in terms of these iPhones that are not the Pro line lately. And I can see why that is. They're not really putting anything super special in them, and they're still charging higher asking prices that get really close to the Pro line. So they almost feel like, upsells, like they're just there. They just exist to make you feel like you should get the Pro and spend a little bit more. But some people will disagree and say, well, I don't need all that stuff, and these phones could be great for you. But they went away from the mini and they went over here to the Plus. But today's topic, the mini right now can be found, at the Apple Store still. So let's go ahead and check the price on this one. I think it's around $600, maybe 500. Let's go ahead and check it out. The iPhone 13 mini also, is not going to be likely updated again, So if you really want a mini phone, yeah, it's $599 right now. But I've seen these things as low as, $500 in the $400 range if you buy these secondhand. And what's cool is you can still get a green colorway on here as well. If you like the product red, like I'm showing here, you might like this as well. But this is kind of high still, for this phone right here, if you buy a brand new. So you can look for it, secondhand if you want. You can go all the way up to 512 gigs on this guy. But let's talk about the body and the build. Should you buy it here? The answer is absolutely. The build and the body is the same as something like a 14 and 14 Plus. The only difference is it's a lot smaller, a lot more easy to manage in one hand. How does it feel? I'd say it feels like pretty much every other current iPhone, but more like an iPhone SE of 2016 in terms of its size. Still a lot bigger than that 4-inch display. But at the same time, if you loved the one-handed compact form factor, you still got to consider this before Apple gets rid of these. They're still super powerful, and they have an option here with the iPhone 13 mini that will last you so many years to come, and mostly because they outfitted it with the Apple A15 Bionic chipset. So if you are using, this phone, you are going to have at least a good 5 years of support. So you can rock out with this compact phone way into the future, even if they no longer release compact phones. So it's still a decent investment if you want a compact phone in the iPhone 13 mini. Now, in terms of its overall, size and form factor, it's not going to be the best for watching media and stuff like that. Although some people are going to say, I don't have no problem with that. At the same time, you got the big boys now if you want to watch media and you want to do a lot of stuff that requires a big screen. But this is going to be great for those commuters. Those people just are on the move a lot. They don't got time for all that messing around on their phone stuff. They got lives. They got things they're doing. They're not sitting at home playing with YouTube all day or playing with, video games or playing with Netflix. They just got to move. And they need something light and portable. There's going to be a phone for you. Now, when talking about the display, we have an amazing display on here. It's an OLED panel, and what that means is that you're going to get really rich contrast on here. So it's just like the bigger phones and stuff like that. I think the notch stands out a little bit more on the mini though, just because the screen area is kind of small, so the notch kind of just sticks out in your face a little bit. But very nice saturation on here, thinner bezels than even something like a 10R or something like an iPhone 11. So very nice thin bezels right here. And overall, it gets bright enough, 800 nits. It can be seen outdoors as well. I've had no troubles with this in the sun. So plenty bright enough in that area. Just overall, a pretty solid display, I would say. I don't think you're really going to have too much of an issue, with this panel right here. So you're going to really enjoy it. Even though it's much smaller than some of the other phones out there, it's still very high end, which is pretty cool. Now, when talking about the actual software, we already mentioned you're going to go well into the future. There's not really any differences between this and a larger phone. You still get the latest updates and stuff like that. I will say that the iOS experience is still, and this is what annoys me about the larger phones, doesn't have a split screen. It still kind of caters to a smaller phone. There's not really anything you do besides single app tasking. So essentially using a mini doesn't really take away much from the experience because you only use one app at a time on any iPhone, no matter if it's larger or smaller. One area I will say though that this is definitely felt on the Mini is that if you are typing, hey, what's up? This is a test. I find my thumbs can bump. I don't think that's going to be a big issue if you have smaller hands, but if you have larger hands, you will have to adjust this keyboard if you were using a larger phone before it. If you're using a smaller phone like an iPhone 8, an iPhone SE already, it's going to be no deal. No big difference for you. But I will say the keyboard experience does feel a little bit compact, a little bit small if you're coming from a larger phone. That's just something I wanted to mention. Other than that, the camera experience is also quite the same here. You have the ultra wide angle. Using the camera here, I also like how small it is. It kind of reminds you of a point and shoot camera because point and shoot cameras don't usually have large screens. They usually have these tiny viewfinders. So this kind of feels, like a little point and shoot camera, like, those little compact cameras they used to make back in the day. I mean, I'm even using a point and shoot style with the Sony ZV-1 right here. So it feels similar to that size. So it's kind of fun to shoot with the iPhone 13 mini as well. So moving away from software, performance, Apple A15, discussed that already. 60 hertz, is it felt? Yes, it's felt, but I don't really care about 120 hertz or 90 hertz on a phone this size because this phone, I'm not, invested in the display as much as I am a larger device because I'm going to be using that display more. So I don't really care here. Also, at 120 hertz, I don't want it taken away from the battery life on an iPhone 13 mini. So I'm okay with this here. And honestly, iOS still is butter smooth. The only time you really notice this is when you actually hold this next to a phone with a higher refresh. You definitely see it then. You're like, whoa, yeah, that's pretty smooth by comparison to my phone. But most people are not going to be holding their phone next to somebody else and being like, hey, can you scroll really quickly and show me how fast your phone scrolls? Nah, it's not going to happen, bro. So performance, rock solid. It can play anything on the App Store. I will say games is a little bit cramped on here. So if you are going to be running some games on board, do keep in mind that the games on here are going to be cramped. And then you're going to drain more battery because of smaller battery life on here. So keep that in mind. And speaking of that, let's just move on to that right now. One thing I really like about the battery here is that, with low power mode, this thing lasts all day. The iPhone mini didn't used to last all day. Now, when I say all day, I'm talking provided you're doing medium to slightly heavy use. Heavy users might get this thing to shut off before the day is over. GPS and camera, high quality 4K video will definitely wreck this and gaming. But as a regular user of an iPhone, I think most people would make it through a full day with the 13 mini. I couldn't say that about the iPhone 12 mini, so I'm happy there. Audio performance, surprisingly for a small phone with only 2 precisionally drilled holes at the bottom, you could see there's 4 on the 14 Plus. It actually sounds quite good. I'm not going to say it's the loudest out there, but you'd be surprised. This little phone can boom for how small it is. There's one up there as well. And the phone call quality has been pretty excellent on here as well. So if you're making phone calls, you want to do 5G performance, it has that as well. Bluetooth is fast. Face ID is still good on this phone. So really, there's not much standing in the way of recommending this right now, besides that you're spending a lot for a phone that doesn't have anywhere near the type of battery life you can get for this price. Also, you can get probably more cameras and a little bit better performing cameras, on some other phones at this price point. Other than that, you really have a unique phone here. A one-handed iPhone that's still modern, even though they didn't release a new one. It's still holding up perfectly well, has multiple colors, and if you're the type of person who never wanted to see Apple go away from the smaller phone, you might want to pick one up before the 15s come out, because when they come out, while this will reduce in price, it's going to age and get older and older. And, when the 15s do come out, I don't see them bringing this back. So might as well, if you can, get it while it's still a little bit more fresh right now. So I do definitely recommend the 13 mini if you're the right buyer for it. Most people, though, are probably going to go with a bigger iPhone. Let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 13 mini in 2023. Do you think this is a phone that you would pick up? Do you think it's worth it? Do you already have one? Do you have an SE and you're planning on getting one of these? Let us know down below in the comments. If you found the video helpful, entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click the like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what else you want to see going forward. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.